Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Black Law and Legal Lies, where we specialize in the legal lies. My name is Dan. Keep up with me on Twitter, IG at I am Dan on Drugs. Keep up with the show on Twitter, IG, YouTube, everywhere at Black Law Podcast.
So, I specialize in telling the truth. My name's Just Dan. You can keep up with me on Twitter at I Tell Legal Lies. Because it's legal for me to tell the legal lies.
Man, I'm crooked.
I have a degree and I'm licensed.
Man, I feel crooked as shit. I don't know what's going on.
You are crooked. You are extremely crooked. Been crooked since the day I met you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, before we have a conversation with a guest to get his take on racism geographically, it's come to my attention that we got a lot of
hate mail,
unsavory comments from some unsavory people. So, I guess what I want to ask today is, why do white people think that they can and must comment on look at that hand, son. Comment on black issues. So if you look at some of our video clips that we posted from last episode where we were talking about Ahmaud Arbery, citizens arrest and things of that nature, it upset a lot of white people. But why? Why do white people feel the need to jump into a conversation, and it's in an attacking fashion? It wasn't even in a dialogue. Why do you think that is? Why does race make them so uncomfortable?
I don't think that that's a white thing, actually, because black people tend to comment on any and everything that we feel comfortable commenting on, whether we have knowledge or not. We tend to say what we want to say when we want to say it. So I don't think it's a white thing. I mean, we tend to. I think it's a human thing. Humans want to get their point across, even if they really have no point.
Okay.
I see that you have pants on too.
I do. So one of the comments last week, one of the public comments, was when you were explaining citizens arrest and what the inception of it was from, being retail, I think.
Right.
So my question, or it was more of a statement slash question, was, well, your question was, do you know why citizens arrest was put on the books? And I said, probably for runaway slaves.
Right.
Now, and then I said, probably, if I had to guess. So according to white people, that was race baiting. That was race baiting. So one, I'm gonna say that I think that was a legitimate response for somebody who doesn't know where it came from.
Well, no, I mean, it would be a legitimate response, period, in a lot of circumstances, because whether Caucasian brothers and sisters want to acknowledge or not, a lot of the laws that are on the books in most states were actually put there as a result of either slavery or Jim Crow. So a lot of these laws revolved around suppression of black people. So
there's this article on by Dr. Robin DiAngelo that I was reading, and
you're doing research now? I remember once upon a time somebody said they don't do research.
I always do research. So here's some of the reasons, and it's a dope article. I'm gonna link to it in the show notes. The following examples of things that trigger racial stress for white people are suggesting that a white person's viewpoint comes from a racialized frame of reference,
Mhm.
challenging their objectivity. People of color talking directly about their own racial perspectives. That challenges the white taboos on talking openly about race.
Mhm.
People of color choosing not to protect the racial feelings of white people in regards to race. That's a challenge to white racial expectations and the need, entitlement to racial comfort. People of color not being willing to tell their stories or answer questions about their racial experiences. That challenges the expectation that people of color will serve white people. A fellow white person not providing agreement with one's racial perspective, that's a challenge to white solidarity. Receiving feedback that one's behavior had a racist impact, that's a challenge to white racial innocence. Suggesting that a group member is significant, a group membership is significant, that's a challenge to individualism. So the individualism I thought was pretty interesting because what they say is a white people don't see themselves as a collective. They don't see themselves as a group. They see themselves as
An
individuals. So they can
individual free.
right.
I
So
make
they can
make my
separate
own
themselves
decisions.
from
Right.
the
I
group.
make my own decisions. I think for myself. I'm not a part of this group of white suppressors. Is that what it is? I don't I don't want to be lumped into I don't want to be lumped into a group yet. That's what they do at all times. They lump black people into groups, but they want to be individuals.
Yeah, pretty much. So they're able to distance themselves and say, "Well, I'm not a racist. I'm, what those guys do, they're individuals, but yet when they look at us, we're a collective. Black people are a collective." So I
Correct.
thought that
Well,
was interesting.
yeah, what one is done, they all have done. It's a them thing. It's not a they thing, right? Or a he or a she thing. It's a black thing. Mhm.
Word.
That's about right.
So had to get that off my chest with these motherfucking white people jumping out there sending us hate mail. Ladies and
Thank
gentlemen,
you.
we are joined by none other than director, videographer, photographer, part time scientist on the side, Craig from Next Level Visions. Full disclaimer, Craig is my cousin. So if we gang up on Ann,
Yeah, yeah,
it
that's
is
what
Wait,
it's
what it
gonna
is.
no,
be. That's what it's gonna be.
wait, that's just. But you know what's funny? It's funny that it's always me against the world. It's always been that way. I have no problem with that.
That should tell you something about
I mean,
yourself.
it's like you and P from Charlotte against me. It's everybody against me. I don't care. I
It's
can
you.
hold my own. I'm
It's not
good.
us. It's you. So, Craig,
Never,
at the
never.
top of the show, what we were talking about is racism as a whole. Our last episode pissed a lot of white people off for some reason, and we really didn't expect it to. We were talking about the Ahmaud Arbery case and uh, citizens arrest, and the citizens arrest is what pissed a lot of people off because
Wow.
one of my comments was when Ann asked if I knew why
What the
citizens arrest
origin
was.
was,
Yeah, I said
right?
for runaway slaves. And for someone who doesn't know, I would say that's a educated guess. That's a good guess.
Right.
And apparently it was for retail, but that pissed a lot of white people off. And it was race baiting and all kinds of stuff. So I'm like,
Wow.
well, we need to explore. We need to explore this a little more. So you're a well traveled person. You've lived in Germany, overseas, Louisiana. That's the probably about as far south as you can go. DC, Maryland, Virginia,
Yeah, yeah,
Pennsylvania, all over the place.
yeah.
What were your experiences like in each of those places as far as being a black man?
In other countries, a lot of my travel was when I was a little bit younger, my youth or my teens, early 20s. But I've been to Saudi, I've been to Korea, I've been a lot of places. And believe it or not, I had no no problems. Like the worst thing that I would have to deal with from being in any other country is maybe you might get some looks if you happen to be in an area where they just don't see a lot of black people. My father was stationed in Germany. We lived in a small town. We didn't live in one of the big German cities. So getting up
They
and
hadn't
going
seen,
to what's
right.
that?
I was just saying they hadn't seen black
Right,
people.
right,
So,
right. But I had no problems. I mean, I used to go to the bars and hang out with the local, the local Germans and drink and have a good time. Every now and then, you might have a nice old lady wanting to touch my hair. But you know what I mean? Like
right.
Damn, you had
nowadays, I
hair?
probably wouldn't permit that. But when I was young, I was like, yeah, sure.
But you're saying that about touching your hair. That happens today. That still
Mhm,
happens. People still want to feel your hair, touch it if they've never had that experience. But you're talking about you said Saudi Arabia,
mhm,
and my brother's in the military, and he's made the exact same comments. He's like, Iraqis, Afghanis,
mhm.
Saudis, they have no problem with black people, black and brown people, because a lot of them are actually darker than us
Mhm.
or our same skin tone.
Right.
So they have no problem with us.
Right. I was surprised to see, and I guess it's my lack of knowledge in my 20s to see people as dark as I am. I was like, whoa, wow,
Right,
like
Mhm, mhm.
it's a whole the whole shade of color. You know what I mean? The whole rainbow, pretty much.
right. Yo, so with that being said, so overseas, it was relatively nothing out of the ordinary, more or less.
Mm,
So let me ask you this: have you experienced like blatant, overt racism to where yo, this is because I'm black?
absolutely. I mean, you mean in another country or just have that
Just
experience?
in
Period.
general, in
In
general.
general, yes.
Yeah.
If I any instance I've ever experience just flat out was here in America.
Word.
We're number one.
Well, but yeah, but you say that, and I don't know if I think as Americans we have a skewed vision of America because we're this is where we are primarily
Mhm,
because I have people who have said to me that they have experienced racial profiling or
mhm,
racism in other countries. I myself, I went to Europe about five, nope, I'm lying, 8 years ago. So 8 years ago, and I was in Paris and I
mhm.
experienced some racial tension and some not blatant racism, but when
Right.
when the situation is racialized.
Man,
So
them niggas was just trying to rob y'all. As far you talking about the taxi cab?
no, I'm not talking about the taxi cab. Not talking about the taxi cab. Even though that was a racial moment, but it was an experience of two African people because African American and African from the continent. So there are a lot of African people in France because French is one of their languages. And I had always heard that African people don't really like African American people. They don't like Americanized African people. And I
That's true in my experience. Like the
right,
DC
and
area
that's
has
what
a
I'm saying.
bunch of them, Ethiopians, Senegalese, a bunch of them, and in
Right.
my experience,
I
they
had
don't like
never,
us.
in my personal experience, I never experienced that until I went there and I saw it
Wow.
and I heard it and it was like, well, all right then.
Yo, so Craig, on your side of things, like what are
Mhm.
some of the things that you've seen over the years as far as racism?
I've never. I mean, I'm kind of a big guy, so I've never had anybody just outright, you know, drop the N word on me or nothing like that. But
Right.
I mean, most people I know have been in situations. I can say last summer I was in a situation where, uh, you know, me doing my videography at that time, this time last year, I was dabbling in YouTube. And what I did was take my brand new camera down to the park, sit down, and I was trying to figure out some settings and get the camera balance on the equipment that I was using. And about 10 minutes into it, I was sitting at a what do you call it, picnic table. I kind of glanced to my right and I see two cops walking up. I said, "Oh shit, it's about to be one of those kind of days." And I look to my left, here comes three more. So okay, we got five cops approaching me. I ain't doing anything but sitting here on this bench. And so of course they approach and want to know what I'm doing, why I'm here. Someone had called them and said, that they thought I was taking pictures of children. Oh
In the
shit.
park.
Oh shit.
Bad.
So and I look around and I can see, I don't know, maybe 100 yards away, there is a playground area, there's swings. I hadn't seen any of that. I was focused on my equipment. It's a big
Right.
park. Um, so of course they want to ask for ID, and right away my instinct is to, no, I haven't done nothing wrong. I'm not giving you my ID.
Right.
But I have the internet. I've seen all the videos. I know how this can go, so
Right.
which makes me even madder because I haven't done anything. I hand him my ID and he runs his little background check, make sure I don't have any warrants or whatever it is they're checking for. But yeah, man, I mean that one fucked me up for a couple of days because as a grown man, you never want to feel like you have no power.
Right.
I've done nothing wrong. I'm minding my business here, you know, uh, upstanding citizen, pay my taxes, all that, serve the country. I just want to be left alone and do what I was doing. But
Yeah, we say something on the show, we driving while black, shopping while black, living while black.
yeah,
Just that's our reality. And the thing, it's funny because Dan was talking about these people who say that we were race baiting, but these are the same people who, for the most part, they pat themselves on the back because they're extremely liberal
hmm
and they have black friends and they're not racist.
Nah,
But
this wasn't them.
they
this,
don't,
this
but
was
no, because
Trump
honestly,
land.
these are some of the same people. Because even
hmm
those people who are Trump supporters, they will tell you, I have black friends, so I am not racist. They
Yeah.
will
right.
they will say stuff like that. I know some of them, and they say that mess all the time. So, but as I said, these are still some of these people that will not to this day say that racism is alive and well in America.
Right. See, and
You know,
that's kind of what I wanted, I guess, to get to the bottom of today, which I'm sure we're not. But it's I still don't understand, like I said at the top of the show, why it makes white people so uncomfortable to have these conversations about race. Because, as we said before, like with the Ahmaud Arbery case, with the Breonna Taylor case, with going back to what's the dude named Sean Bell in New York, like
hmm
no matter what, they try to find some sort of a justification. Sometimes it's a sick and twisted justification,
right?
but they want to believe that the police officers or the George Zimmermans of the world, like they want to believe that these are the good guys
hmm
and the dead black man is, or woman in the case of Brianna, is the bad guy. And we already know that going back to even early childhood development, it's like they look at black is bad. I'm sure both of you seen the baby doll experiment. Black is
Yes.
bad, white is good. So it's like when you try to have these conversations with them, they get defensive, they get offended, and it's like, how are you getting offended when you don't have to deal with this shit? So I guess my theory is they get offended because they do have to deal with it in a sense right now during this conversation. They have to think about things that they're not comfortable thinking about. That's the best I could come up with.
It goes back to what I said. You do not want to acknowledge that this is still alive and well. You don't want see a lot of people we are the only creatures that have the ability to lie to ourselves. So we lie to ourselves. Like, think about it. Barack Obama was elected president of the United States. And how many times did you hear America can't be racist? We elected a black man as president. How many times did you hear that?
A lot, a lot.
Right. So
Mhm.
we don't want to acknowledge what is inherently wrong in our society. We don't want to acknowledge the bad in ourselves. That if you boil it down to the very bottom, the DNA of it all, that's the thing. We don't want to acknowledge the wrong in us. That
Yeah,
that that that's the way I see it.
yeah. I mean, it's easier to not for some people to not deal with it. To not look at it. Anytime you see any of these deaths, it's always, in my opinion, that we have to. It's always for some reason looked at as the person who was killed. It's their fault.
Right?
When we have to prove otherwise. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's wild to me. I used to have these conversations at work, but it stopped. It got too intense. It just got frustrating because
You
I
can't
feel
change
like the only one speaking for millions. You know what
you
I
Right.
mean?
can't change their mind. That's the thing. It is so ingrained to sidestep, to believe I'm a good person. I could never do that. Yet you think that way. You think it, but you don't want to acknowledge it. And you can't change their mind because you have to acknowledge that you are different than what you see in the mirror. We
Mm.
all hold a mirror up to ourselves, and what is reflected back at us is not necessarily what who we are. It's who we want to be.
Man,
This
when I
is
hold a mirror up, I got a six pack and I got big ass.
exactly who you want to be, not who you are. Right.
Right. So I can honestly say every racial conversation that I've ever had with somebody that is not black. And this actually spans Latinos. We talked about a conversation last week that
Hmm.
I had with a Latino friend of mine. They all these conversations go nowhere, and it does get frustrating, and it makes you want to, well, let me speak for myself. It makes me want to go back to almost like a primitive way of thinking, like, all right, we got to fight now because these words ain't working. You ain't getting it. I'm not getting what you're trying to say. And I even give people the benefit of the doubt, like my Latino friend. It's like, I don't think you mean exactly what you're saying, so let's discuss it. Let's elaborate on it. Let's go back and forth. But nah, according to him, Latinos, they're the race in America that's treated the worst. Black people have it way better, and whatever, whatever. So, it's just, is that your experience
I,
too, Craig?
yeah, I used to have these conversations because it was interesting to me, and it was a way to hear, another person's point of view and get my point of view across. And maybe throughout my lifetime, we can uh, have a better understanding of each other. Since 2016, I don't have these conversations no more
Right.
because during that election and when all that was going on, I've never felt so much tension on my job and even on online social or whatever
Yeah.
than I have before. So like, usually I avoid these things. I avoid having the conversation, not out of comfort. It's just I feel a lot of time that it's not worth my time. I have
Right.
to actually find someone who's really truly honestly interested in having a dialogue. I'm open to that, but I
Right.
feel like nowadays everyone feels like they're a victim.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A lot of the white guys I talk to right now, they feel like the country's coming for them. Whether it's women's equal pay, whether it's Me Too, whether it's racism. Like when I talk to these guys, these are the feelings I get. So I, I've just stopped having the conversations. I mean,
But and by not having the conversations, do you think that they think that you think like them?
no, no. We everyone's clear where everybody stands on my job. Here's this is what made me stop. A lot of people that I talk to, and I can't say everyone because I have a lot of white friends, a lot of coworkers, family, even. A lot of people feel that the more you discuss this, that's the problem. I've heard it plenty of times that when Barack was president, racial tensions was high because you want to talk about it all the time. I'm like, that's not how we solve problems. Ignoring it's not how we solve problems. Dan, you're in IT. I'm in IT. If you don't understand why something is broke, you can't begin to fix it.
Right.
So,
Right.
in IT, you don't just randomly unplug cables and start rebooting things, and
You must
you
not
have to
know our
understand
department.
what's that.
You must not know our IT department.
Well, I don't know how Dan does it.
Man, you must not know.
Unplug it all.
But you know what I mean? Like you have to understand the reason behind things in order to move forward. That's how I fix problems. I need to understand why it's broken in order to move forward. A lot of people don't want to understand why something is broken, and that's where we're stuck.
Right.
They
I
just want
think
it to go
a lot
away.
of see, you say a lot of people don't want to understand why it's broken. Not that they don't want to, for me, it's not that they don't want to understand why it's broken. They don't think it's broken.
Mm.
Because how many times have we all heard that happened so long ago? Y'all need to get over it. Like it's not relevant now.
Mm.
This is 2020. That
Right.
is not relevant. Leave
Now,
it in the past.
that article that I was reading made a real good point too about segregation, how in the white suburbs you have typically you'll have an all white neighborhood. They don't interact outside of that, outside of their community with other races. And to them, their life is great. They got their house, they got their cars, their kids are in good schools. So what am I losing by not interacting with people of other ethnicities?
In their head, nothing.
Right.
You're
So
nothing.
you have that aspect of the segregation, just us being apart and being different.
Right, but
Right.
you're losing perspective. That's what you're losing. You're looking you lose actually being able to look at life through the eyes of someone else's struggle, through the eyes of someone else's experience. And something else, I said a couple of seconds ago about people saying it's in the past, this is 2020, leave it in the past. But there is such a thing as still white flight. There is such a thing as white privilege. I mean, these are all things that are still alive and well in 2020. So, and all of those things stem from past, you
Right.
know,
Right.
Right.
I,
it's still a
I, I want to say something to what you said, Dan, about people not leaving their neighborhoods. Basically, we self segregate as people. I mean, it's just a natural thing. You tend to be around people like you or that are into things, subjects and things that you like. I can say this: the least amount of racism I've ever dealt with is when I was in the military or a military brat overseas, because everybody is almost forced to mix. You have people from all over America, all over the world, various cultures, all living together and working together. And if you don't surround yourself with you know a variety of people, you can't help but have one skewed view.
Right.
of the world. I mean, if you wanna make any progress, get yourself around some other people. You'll learn
Right.
a lot. I learned a lot.
No doubt. I learned by being around Ann that I really dislike Ann. But yo, so check this. Being a father too, and having your prior experience being traveled and being in the military, being all over the place, did that give you a perspective that you could, I guess, pass on to your kids, especially as black boys, that they might not have been able to get from anywhere else, or say a unique perspective?
Maybe. I mean, for my kids, where we live, it's a small town. So if in my head, prior to having kids, I would have thought I could pass on the ability to be around different types of people. They're almost forced to here. You know what I mean?
Right.
You have people from all different walks of life. So I feel my kids are very well rounded, and they understand a lot more than I did at their age when it comes to, especially when it comes to race or police officers and things like that. Because I still, and this is one of the worst things I said, I still remember being an 18-year-old, um, telling my mother, like, "Hey, that racism shit, that's gone. That's the old days." My mom thought it was the dumbest thing, and it really was the dumbest thing I ever said to her. But little did I know, you know what I mean, that it hadn't gone anywhere. Just in my little world, living in a little town in Germany, I
You
thought it was
weren't
over.
experiencing it. So let me
Right.
ask you a question, because I'm honest enough to, I want to put this question to the group, and everybody can yes or no it, or
Mm.
delve into it. Do you think that you're racist?
Fuck yeah, I am.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
No,
Dan.
that was it. Fuck
That was it.
it.
I think everyone has a little uh, prejudice, maybe a little bigotry in them. Like I said, it's natural that we self-segregate, but racist, I don't think I am at all. Like, I don't. Nah.
I'll give someone a chance. Let me say that. I'll give someone a chance. Sure, we know all the racial stereotypes. Some of them true, some of them not. Some of them funny, some of them not. But I'll give people a chance. I'll give anyone a chance. Throughout my life, I've had a lot of Hispanic friends, a Salvadorian, Cuban, Guatemalan, like just different Latinos. I've had a handful of white friends, but that didn't happen until I actually got older and kind of got out of my neighborhood. Most of my friends were Latino and black growing up though, and I had no problem with any of their ethnicities. Now I might have had problems with them as individuals, but that's after taking the time to get to know them.
Right, right.
All right. Well, like I said, I'm honest enough with myself, and I 100% agree with what Craig said. I tell people all the time that I am prejudiced. I am, because all prejudice is basically a
Prejudge us.
choice. It's like a choice to uh interact with this rather than that. So I am, as you said, I had a little bit of that. I don't know about that bigotry thing though. I don't think I'm bigoted. Neither am I racist per se, because, and I don't know, I hear Martin Luther King in my ear all the time: judge a person by the content of their character rather than the color of their skin. We that's the first thing we see about a person, but that's not the first thing I see about a person. I mean,
Bullshit.
no, it's that's true. I mean, I am
And
not,
racist, and racist.
man, look, I let people hang themselves, really. Like, I will give you enough rope. I will let you talk.
Wait, so now you hanging niggas,
Look, I'm hanging you.
man?
No, but
See,
I tell Dan all the time, Dan, he's a colorist.
see that, and that's what I was
No,
gonna actually
he-
jump into because
he's not racist. He's colorist.
if you want to go back to your original premise, I guess being racist, no. I'll still say yeah, just for the shock value, but no. Now, everyone has preferences and likes to say I'm colorist. Like
Yes.
I prefer brown skinned women. That's what we're talking about in reference
No,
to. So
he actually prefers Asians, but he just can't find a hot one. So
you know what? You said it, not me. So, um, but no, everyone has their preference. I have a preference on body type. I have a preference on no matter. I mean, we're all adults here. We've all seen and done enough stuff to know what we prefer.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't necessarily say that's being colorist. That's just having a preference. I
mm-mm.
prefer brown skinned women. That
You
that's
have
just my
the colorist.
preference.
So wait, so why? What why do you prefer? What makes you where did this preference come from? Why light skin
Experience,
as opposed to
experience. It's
wait,
almost
wait.
like asking
What
someone why they
experience
like
taught
pizza. You
you?
can't really describe why you can't explain why you like pizza. I just like this shit.
No, you can't explain why. I can explain why I like pizza. What makes a lighter skinned woman better than a darker skinned woman?
I never said they were better. That's just my preference. That's
Okay.
all
I
Uh-huh.
agree.
preference.
Everybody has preferences. I mean,
Mm.
like you said, you could say with shape. You know, some guys don't want a big girl. Some guys prefer a big girl. I mean, I don't think I could explain that if I
Right.
was put in a situation. It's
Man, y'all need to think about that, man. Y'all need to think about that.
Think about why we have
That's the
preferences.
homework.
that's
That's
my
the
point.
homework. Come
Y'all ain't come on here to do all
That's
damn
the homework.
homework.
Come back with the answer, man.
So why do you prefer what you prefer?
I don't think I have a preference. I really don't.
Everyone has preferences.
Dude, for real. I don't because I have dated guys who are brown skinned. I've dated guys who are light skinned. I've dated guys who are white. I've dated guys who are Asian. I don't really have a preference. I
Now you
like
fucking lying.
I ain't lying. I
What about
like
a guy shorter than you?
Wait,
What
what?
about a guy shorter than you?
I don't know if I've ever dated somebody shorter
Would
than me.
you? Would you? Do you prefer?
Would I?
Yeah. Would you look at
I
a?
would. I mean, look, let me tell you. If dude got money and he can take care of me the way that I need to be taken care of,
Wait, so a broke dude then?
now you see that might be an issue, but it's not a preference. It's a lifestyle. You know, I have to be maintained in the lifestyle to which I am accustomed,
You can't
and
do
I
that
expect
yourself?
and I expect you to contribute to that lifestyle,
So you
Sounds
prefer
like
that he can do that?
huh?
You prefer that he would be able to do that?
I would like for him to do that.
Sounds like a
I would,
preference.
I would
sou-
like for him to do that.
sounds like prostitution to me, but I
Nah,
mean,
nah.
either
We
way.
had that conversation. You know what, Craig? That's a good question to ask. We've had that conversation. Like I said, ain't nothing in life free, bruh. You paying for it some kind of way.
I disagree with that. You ain't
Oh
got to
wait, all
pay.
right. Talk to me. Talk to me.
I mean, what are you saying? Like the whole dating process is paying? Maybe you
No,
just
we had a conversation. We had a conversation back in the day, and the way the conversation ran was somebody said, if I take a chick out to dinner in a movie, she got to give it up. Is what somebody said. You know, I'm not
That
naming
was his
names.
preference. That was
That's
his
what I was gonna
preference.
say. I would prefer.
You know, it's like so in the conversation we were talking about the illegalization of prostitution. And my comment was, it's all because and Dan will say that I say this all the time. We live in a patriarchal society, and men want to tell women what they can and cannot do with their body. So here it is. You marry somebody and you're a stay-at-home mom, right? Husband pays for the house, the car, the clothes, the food, right? And you, in turn, clean house. And at the end of the day, you giving it up, right? So is he not paying for it? I'm
No,
just
you're
saying.
doing that out of love. You're doing
I'm
that
just
out
saying.
of love for each other.
Oh, right, really. So here's the thing though. So we get married and I'm doing all of this and you're taking care of the kids and you're keeping the house and everything else. And when it comes to sex, I say no. Then what happens?
It's
You
just him
know
by
what?
himself, I guess.
I have never seen. Let me put this more tastefully, I guess. What do
Wait,
you
you have
tell?
taste?
What
Wait,
what what do you tell a woman with two black eyes? That that's just once you're at that point and you're married, it's not paying for it. Once you're living together, married, she's taking care of the kids, she's cleaning, she's cooking, she's doing all that shit. You out working. That that's almost an equal exchange. Like
oh,
let's
so it's barter.
yeah. Well, no, you're not bartering. You're both contributing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So let's say you
Yeah.
have a savings account, right? And you work and your partner works. Both of you, whatever you can. You know, it might not you might put in $50, he might put in 20 cuz he a little short this month cuz he got to spend money on taking care of your ass. So it doesn't necessarily have to be equal, but you're both contributing and it's for the betterment of the household.
Mhm,
So I don't
absolutely.
think that's paying for it.
I mean, my but you're still actually helping me out here because yeah, we you're doing something for me and I'm doing something for you. Just saying.
If you
Just saying.
say so. So, yo, Craig, you got anything else you wanted to add here? Because we went from racism to
Yeah, man,
prostitution.
look, we often fall into these sidebars. It happens quite often.
Look, the
I'm
show would
sorry.
not be right without the sidebar. I mean, that's a staple of the sidebar of the show.
No doubt. So, yo,
Which,
how's business going? Black
uh,
business.
Everything was I switched from doing music videos to uh, corporate video. That was the goal, and um, right before COVID hit, I was ready to rock and roll. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, in order, typically, in order to for me to land business clients, I need a portfolio that shows videos, of businesses that I've worked with. So
right.
um, I couldn't really land anybody until I built that portfolio. So right before am I the only one that says COVID, knowing it's COVID? Right
That,
before
that,
COVID hit, I had a bunch of videos lined up to shoot for free to build up my portfolio. And of
right.
course, everything's gone to hell since then. But
Right.
I'm good. I'm still
Right.
working my night job. So
Damn. No
yeah,
doubt. So, COVID
Uh-oh.
definitely affected you as far as
Everybody
slowing
stop.
things down.
yeah. When it
Uh,
comes to freelancers, all the freelancers I know are hurting. I happen to have full time employment, so I'm good.
Right.
Um, Wife just now got unemployment, and she's a business owner too. Independent contractor, so to speak. But so that's helped out too. But I'm feeling for all the just straight up. I work for myself freelancers out there.
oh, no
And,
doubt.
but
Some of them are having trouble getting like Paul's barber. He had been in business less than X amount of time
Right.
and he didn't qualify for the
On the P,
yeah.
you had
So
yeah, you had to be in business.
2 years, I think.
Well, it's as of February 2020, you had to have, I'm trying to remember, as a sole proprietor, You had to be in business as of February 2020. And I didn't think I don't remember reading anything about a 2-year requirement. You just had to have information showing your income. And we know as we try to tell the people on the show, get legitimized. We say, I mean, that is like a recurrent theme. And a lot of black owned businesses don't really do that. They don't
Hmm.
have the separate business account. They don't keep good records. So in order to get this PPP loan, you had to have records.
Right.
And a lot of people didn't. So that's where a lot of people got shafted.
Where you got all your stuff in order, Craig, as far as business structure.
Well, I mean, I have more than the average person.
Right.
I have the separate accounts, the LLC that Ann helped me set up. Um, um, Record keeping, I feel like I should do a better job, but also feel like, hey, it's electronic. I can pull up all the transactions and everything.
Right.
Do I actually need receipts anymore?
Yo, I
You
can
know?
tell you that when you got the IRS on your ass asking for a receipt for this, and yo, you sweating bullets looking for that shit, like going through emails and
Yeah.
yeah, I not that I've had to do that for anything,
Yeah.
But
but
I tell people all the time, it's as simple as, some people might not have electronic anything, but it is as simple as getting a brown manila envelope, drop the receipt inside there. It's as simple as that.
That's a lot of paper, man.
I know it is. And the crazy thing is, but you have that paper. And at the
Mhm.
end of the day, you pick that paper up and you bring it into your accountant, your tax person, whatever, and they have that information.
Yeah, you're
But
right.
most people,
I,
simple.
I, I want to say, I love all y'all's episodes, but my favorite ones are the ones that deal with the business. And I can't remember the guy you have on the tax, or not.
Jaden
He's not
Hollywood.
Jane,
Hollywood. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I love when he's on there too. Like those are my favorite
Yeah,
episodes
shout out
right
to
there.
Jaden, man. That
right?
that he really
He
came up
moved. He is moving and shaking.
from the first time we met him and had him on the show to the last time. He got a lot accomplished, CPA, and yo, he's doing really well. But
His own firm,
yeah,
moving into bigger spaces.
Oh, he ain't messing with y'all now, right?
nah, he got too big for us. He went Hollywood on us.
Who is this? Nah, I don't know that.
Yeah, he got Becky. Becky is actually on his answering service
Wow.
because he needed someone to sound professional, and
Mm-hmm.
Becky, being Becky, I had someone tell me the other day on Twitter, they're like, "Yo, every time you reference Becky, I thought you was talking about a random white lady." I was like, "Well, either way, it still works,
That works. Right.
no
That works.
doubt."
That's
But
all
yeah,
right.
Y'all seem like y'all blowing up too. I'm hearing sponsorships and all that kind of stuff, commercials. I'm
man,
like,
that shit
oh,
dried up too with the COVID. Yo, we
oh.
watched our first year podcast in 2017. We were doing like 29 between 10 and 29 listens per week the first couple of episodes, and I'm
Mhm.
like just questioning like, damn, is this shit even worth it? And I have no clue how we got to where we are now because we didn't do any paid promotion. We did do a lot of social networking on the
Mhm.
social media sites, but I still have no clue how we got to where we were. But yeah, all the advertisements and shit dried up after this whole COVID thing hit, and it's
That is
like,
right.
Wow.
damn, ain't no one trying to advertise. And you would think now would be the time to advertise. It's like people sitting at home, chilling, listening to their favorite podcast. But I also noticed that our numbers have been sliding. We're down about from March until now, we're down about 10-15%. So people are still consuming it. They're just not doing it
As much as
expeditiously.
well, and it's
Right.
because if you think about it, and well, not in spite of it all, because of it all, even though you want a little bit of mindless entertainment, there's a lot of worry. So people are like tuning in, trying to figure out, what to do and where to go and whatever. So I think to myself, people are actually trying to figure out everyday life.
Yeah.
Like, what's my next step? So
I also wonder what, like, when people listen. Like when I listen to y'all, I'm in the car on the way or from work to and
Right.
from work. And if a
mhm,
lot of people listen to podcasts, then a lot of traveling ain't being done. But
being
Yeah.
done,
like I'm kind of curious.
Yeah.
right?
When I listen to podcasts, I'm either in the bathroom getting ready for work. I got the Bluetooth speaker playing, trying to catch up on what's going on. That's when I listen to my entertainment type of shit. Then as the day goes on, I'll pop in my ear pods at work and just listen as I'm doing whatever I'm doing. So when I was working from home, I noticed I wasn't listening to any podcasts because my routine just got totally
That's
disrupted to where it's
right.
like I don't even want to. I would try to put one on and it would just be kind of droning in the background. And I'm like, I'm not
Yeah,
even paying attention to this shit. So for me, it's definitely at work while I'm working on something. And I'm sure you know how it is in IT
yeah,
when you got people talking and shit, you're trying to concentrate. You're like, yo, shut the fuck up, man.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like you said, the routine has been thrown off. I'm a very um,
Creature of habit.
habitual person. Yeah, a creature of habit. And when that gets thrown off, everything is thrown off for me.
Right.
Everything. I
No
mean, when I
doubt.
get up tomorrow, I have an idea of what I'm going to do. If somebody comes to visit or throws, or I start the day without an idea, I don't get anything done. I
Right.
spend a whole day sitting. What am I going to do? Because I had no plan.
No
Right.
doubt. The worst thing is when you get that phone call, yo, so and so's in the hospital. You're like, fuck my whole
Right.
day.
Okay. You want to get right.
I'm saying sometimes I have that conversation with myself, like, do I really want
Really want to
to,
hear it?
you know?
Right. Right. Right.
But no doubt, yo, thanks for coming on the show, Craig, and drop your social media. And a lot of
Yeah.
people see me
People
wearing
let
the
me
next level
find.
gear.
How
Oh
can
yeah,
we
yeah.
get that to the next level? I'm trying to get
I'm
there.
trying to get to the next level.
Trying to get
The
to the
gear
next
too,
level.
the merch. Yeah, you can find me next level visions.com, and all the links are there. I don't want to drop all the social links because the spelling's all weird. But you can catch my Twitter, my Instagram, everything is at nextlevelvisions.com. I appreciate y'all having me on here.
We
Always wanted
appreciate you
to.
coming.
Oh, no problem, no problem. I always wish that it was a call-in show. Maybe we'll get there one day. Because sometimes I came to the party a little late, so I had to go back and listen to episodes. I'm like, oh, I need to talk to Ann. That's some bull. They jumping on my cousin like that. We can't have that. That was 6 months ago.
No doubt.
It's
Yo,
over.
Craig was heated
Yeah.
about that what was it, the custody joint.
Oh,
Oh,
oh, you know what?
yeah. I mean, I didn't get heated. I realize it varies big time state to state.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
It does, but I can tell you what, a lot of people, I caught heat on that episode. I caught heat from a lot of daddies, man. The
Nah,
daddies don't.
The abortion.
Oh, that was another one.
Yeah,
That,
we
that
had a
was another.
video clip out there. That shit had like thousands of views and people was going in on Ann because I I, I want to say I might be paraphrasing here, but Ann said that if a mother is pregnant, she has no obligation to tell the father.
Ooh, yeah, I remember
And
that.
yo, women was heated with her, and I'm like, just dumping gasoline, like, yeah, fuck Ann, man. Psh.
Remember
That's
that?
fucked up. She said that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But it's
Yo,
all good. I appreciate y'all having me on here, man. Maybe I
oh,
can hop on
anytime.
another time.
Oh
Thank
yeah,
you.
once we get some normalcy back and get Ann back in the building, definitely, and get Becky back on the show. She's been MIA. definitely do that, and we'll have a better topic too. Because racism, man. No one really wants to talk about racism, but we have to, believe it or not, for
Yeah,
those of
Right.
you who are not minorities and people of color. So
Right.
this has been another episode of Black Law and Legal Lies. Per usual, we thank you for tuning in. Keep up with the show on Twitter, IG, YouTube at Black Law Podcast. And you can keep up with me on Twitter and IG at I am Dan on Drugs.
And you can follow me at I Tell Legal Lies.
Peace.
Hey.
peace.